How's it going, everybody? My name is Dave Whipple and you're watching Bush Radical. I've been putting out a couple of videos here and there on the Alone series just to kind of talk about some of the stuff that never made it to TV, didn't get talked about. I've got a lot of comments from folks who have found the information interesting, liked the insight, kind of the inner workings of Alone. Today I want to give you guys a few tips for everybody out there that wants to get on Alone. Stuff that in hindsight I think would have been very helpful. Things that throughout the process you find are important that you didn't know were important before. Stuff that you find out after the fact is important that you wish you might have focused on a little more. This is going to be tips to getting on Alone. Stay tuned. Go buy a camera. Running a camera is what gets the show made. If you're on Alone, you're running a camera. You might as well just embrace that idea before you ever apply it. Go buy yourself a $200 camera or go to a pawn shop and get a $60 used camera. Get something that's SD. Don't get high 8 tapes or mini DV tapes or any of that stupid stuff. Get something that takes an SD card or get something that has an internal memory. The camera I'm shooting on right now is an HF-G20 Canon. It takes SD cards, but I just shoot on the internal memory. It's got hours of internal memory and I never keep anything around. Once I shoot a video, I edit it, I put it out, and then I erase all the footage. I just don't want the mental clutter of knowing I've got stuff to get back to at some point. So I just shoot, edit, publish, and then delete. Before going on Alone, I had zero camera experience. And my wife Brooke has been doing camera work for years. So the extent of my camera experience is where she's like, hey, film me doing this. And I push the on button and I point the camera at her. I didn't have any experience whatsoever with a camera. Now for a lot of people, that's a tough learning curve. To show up at boot camp, you want to get your spot on Alone. You're working on survival skills and you're working on bushcraft skills and traps. But the camera thing, a lot of people come to boot camp with zero camera experience. You don't need camera experience. You're going to get training on a camera before they dump you in the weeds with a camera. But it would be so much easier if you had 6 months of time at home to get used to running a camera. It took me a while to kind of warm up to the camera and you just turn it on and just talk. Hit the button and pretend like you're talking to the people who are ultimately going to see the footage you shoot, because that is what's actually going on. And that brings me to another point. If you want to get on Alone, I would also work on editing. You're never going to edit anything on Alone, but it does change your perspective of how to film once you have edited footage. Video editing software is actually really simple. You just see all your footage in a big long line and there's like a little running bar that shows where you're at. And when you find something stupid that you wish you hadn't said, or your camera's all moving, you just take that whole area, highlight it, and delete it, and it goes away. Once you edit footage, you realize that, you could say it 1,000 times until you get the point across. And I didn't know any of that stuff when we were filming Alone. I'd turn the camera on and I'd try to get a coherent thought across. It's much better to have edited footage, because then you come at it with the perspective like, I don't have to get anything right. I'll just turn it on and be like, okay, I'm taking this rope and I'm trying to make a net. And you can say that 20 different times until you get the idea across that you're trying to get across. You don't have to get everything right. And you understand that once you edit footage. You don't have to know anything about a camera to get on Alone, but it would be a big benefit to telling your story and to feeling comfortable during boot camp if you already understood how to run a camera and how to edit footage. Not that you're ever going to edit, but it'll change the way you look at things. So get a free editing software program and get a cheap camera and just get comfortable with it. You can go on to do a YouTube channel if you want. Just totally be yourself. There were 1 or 2 people at boot camp that tried so hard to convince everyone involved that they were the person. They were, survival expert and, could do it all. And There's a couple people, just to be frank about it, there's a couple people that, in my opinion, tried way too hard. Just be yourself. If you can't do something, if you don't have a certain skill, just be like, you know what? I don't know how to do that. And just get over that whole idea that you have to know everything. Everybody wants to work with people that are going to be fun and interesting to work with. You can sense a mile away when someone is desperate, when someone wants something too much, and it's a turnoff. I mean, that's not just alone, it's not boot camp. That's everything in the world. When someone is so intense about making something happen, it's kind of a red flag. I've said this before in another video, but I think it bears repeating. Just have fun with the process. Chill out, be yourself, be 110% honest. If you've never done something, say, I've never done it. If you don't know how to do something, just say, I don't know how to do that. You know, history builds it as, these are trained survival experts. We're just people that have interesting backstories, who have solid bush skills. Most of all, it's folks like me and you that love the outdoors, got a chance to go through the process, got lucky enough to get picked. That's what the show's really made of. So be honest and just totally be yourself. Backstory. I think one of the things that benefited Brooke and I getting on the show was our backstory. We'd lived in Sitka as caretakers of a campground. We'd lived in the Aleutian Islands for 8 months. That video is on this channel. You could look that up. It was quite a time. We've been homesteaders. We'd lived off grid. We spent most of the last 20 years in Alaska, and most of it in interior Alaska. We've rafted down the Yukon River. We lived off grid. On paper and in pictures, I think our backstory really worked towards selling us. When we sent our information in, it wasn't very long before we got contacted. I think it was a good backstory. I think if you were a producer and you're like, here's this couple's been married almost 20 years. They're in their early 40s. They've been all over the place. It looked good. Ever since Dave and Cody and Les Stroud and Bear Grylls really kind of blew up cable television with survival shows, survival experts have come out of the woodwork. There's no end to people who claims to be a survival expert or a survival instructor. Maybe everyone who claims to be a survival instructor is a survival instructor, but I think my opinion is maybe half of the people that claim to be a survival instructor actually ever made $1 instructing people on how to survive. I'm just going to guess there. I don't know that for a fact. That's my opinion. Survival instructors have come out of the woodwork. But a solid, interesting backstory, I think that sticks out more. So if you've got a good backstory, emphasize it. Make sure that you flesh it out for production so they can say, oh, this person's done this, this, and this. That's really interesting. We want to talk to them. If you've got a great backstory, by all means, make sure people know that. Just saying I'm a survival instructor or a survival expert, it's probably more white noise than anything else. Once again, I'm just guessing. I'm riffing here, but I've heard it enough. I think it's prevalent. And that kind of brings me to my last point, your bushcraft skills. Bushcraft has kind of became this course of study almost. You see people feather sticking and then doing flint and steel and batoning wood and setting up these specific type of shelters and stuff. When you're evaluated at boot camp, you're going to have to make a fire, you're going to have to build a shelter. You don't have to do it the way everybody else does it. You can go your own route so long as you're proficient and you could get the same thing done in your own way. The bushcraft skills aren't super important. I think what's really important is you have to have an adaptable skill set. You have to take whatever you've got and do whatever you need to do with it. So that whole kind of field of study of bushcrafting, I don't know which knife to take because this one makes better feather sticks. That's kind of a non-issue. Or, what kind of shelter do I want to build? Do I want to build a debris hut? I think what's more important is just to be able to grab whatever you're given and make it what you need it to be. Just look at materials as materials and be ready to start a fire with dry weeds. Take back your knife and get a fuzzy pile of dry weed stalk, as opposed to looking for birch bark in an area where there's no birch bark, or tinder fungus, or whatever, you know. Keep an open mind. Bushcraft skills, I don't think they're anywhere near as important as being able to be flexible and adapt. So just be ready to start a fire, be ready to make a shelter, rig and fishing line, just kind of get the feel of everything that you think you need to do. The bushcraft skills, hard bushcraft skills, they're probably not as important as people think. So that's my list of tips to help you get on alone in the event that you get that opportunity. Grab a camera while you got a chance. Get used to shooting footage. Get used to running a camera and get a free editing program and start editing. You don't have to do that, but it will inform you of how to film. Be yourself. Be totally honest. Never pitch yourself as something you're not. Just be completely, plainly correct in your description of yourself. If you've got a good backstory, by all means emphasize your backstory. I think that's important. A lot of interesting people have come through alone with very interesting backstories, and it just makes it easier to tell their story, to have a backstory to look at and say, this is who this person is, this is where they come from. And as far as bushcraft skills, just be ready to roll with it, be ready to improvise, get the basics down, and then come at it from your own angle. Hope these tips have helped you guys. Hope everybody that wants to get on alone gets that opportunity. Thank you so much for watching this channel, Bush Radical. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit the share button, hit the like button, hit the bell so you can get updates when I post videos. So thank you guys so much for watching Bush Radical. My name's Dave Whipple, and be radical, eh? See you soon.